The Buu Saga is one of the most controversial story arcs in Dragon Ball. It was really the first time that we've seen a clear divide in the fandom, and for the most part, it's not that people don't like the Buu Saga, it's just that the anime and manga versions of these stories at some point truly become night and day. One of the biggest arguments in the entire franchise makes an appearance during the saga, and we'll be addressing that in this video as well. So you may be wondering, what do I mean by new power system? Since this story is very old. In this context, new is to refer to the current state of power, in which this saga stands. For the longest time, fans have been power scaling Dragon Ball, but it wasn't always done very correctly. So the purpose of this video will be us taking a second look at this point in the story and accurately scaling the characters. In addition to this, Dragon Ball Daima, the newest series in the franchise, does somewhat give us new information in regards to how we should view the Buu Saga as a whole, but we'll get into that later in the video. There's 3 parts to the Buu Saga, and I think based on what you're talking about, the ranking of the characters changes dramatically. Starting with part 1, I think it's very important to firstly tackle the Saiyan trio from top to bottom, starting with Goku. At this point in the series, Goku is the strongest and is very evident. Even without Super Saiyan 3, Goku could easily beat everyone on board Babidi's ship in Super Saiyan 2. In the anime, we see Goku in the Otherworld tournament against Pikkon. In the beginning of their match, it was clear that Goku, just in his base form, was able to overpower weighted Pikkon. This resulted in him needing to take off the weights to make the match competitive. This is the same Pikkon that we see being able to one-shot Frieza, Cell, and King Cole without breaking a sweat. You can argue that this Cell is in perfect form because of the lack of visual flair that's standard for Super Saiyan 2, though this electricity isn't always present while the form is active. In the initial stage of the transformation, there's no question that Electric is accustomed to Super Saiyan 2, but while the form is passively being used, there are moments when the lightning isn't so defined. Because of this, you can't say Cell isn't super perfect here just because you don't see the lightning in a yellow aura. The reason Goku and Pikkon go to hell in the first place is because Cell is trying to escape. You would think that if you're attempting an escape somewhat, you don't want to be holding back necessarily. So I'm going to say that this was super perfect Cell here. I think it's also fair to say that Cell may not have been able to simply de-transform from his Super Saiyan states, since they seem to be more intertwined with his being rather than just being an outright form. Having said that, Goku in just his base form will be placed above super perfect Cell by the time of this tournament. So this would mean that Goku could have defeated Dabura in just his base form, since he's comparable to Cell from 7 years ago. Some supporting evidence for this is when Babidi and Dabura are assessing everyone and very clearly state that Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta are the strongest fighters present. These statements are being made while Piccolo is there. As we know, Piccolo, after fusing with Kami and training in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, got a massive increase in power. So much so that in the anime he performed better than Trunks and Vegeta did against the Cell Jr. Stack 7 years of training on top of that, as it's been stated many times that Piccolo never stops training, and Goku in his base form is still above that. As a matter of fact, the entire Saiyan trio is above Piccolo in their base forms. Even Gohan, who stated to be weaker than he was 7 years ago due to slacking off, which means that base Gohan in the Cell Saga would have mopped the floor with Buu Saga Piccolo. Crazy to think about. Following behind Goku is Vegeta. It's clear Gohan isn't as strong as him as we watch his fight with Dabura. Even though he's stated to be Cell level, Vegeta is only frustrated to see how far he's fallen. No doubt because he'd make quick work of him if he was in the same position. The only time Vegeta actually looks even remotely impressed is when Goku uses Super Saiyan 2. As for Gohan versus Dabura, I think it would heavily depend on Gohan's fighting instincts returning to him. It appeared in their fight that Dabura may have had the upper hand, but as we know, Gohan wasn't rage amped like during the World Tournament. Bear in mind that Gohan when fighting Cell wasn't just a Super Saiyan 2, but was one with the rage amp on top of that, which is why he was so much stronger than him initially. Here, Gohan would just be using Super Saiyan 2 without the amp, which more than likely wouldn't go well for him. Goku, however, seemed pretty confident in him to win, so because of that, I'll put him above Dabura on the list, but I wouldn't be mad if anyone had Dabura here. When Vegeta becomes Majin, him and Goku are equals in Super Saiyan 2, with Goku still holding the top spot with Super Saiyan 3, and when Fat Buu is released, he will go above Vegeta but below Goku. Trunks in his base form is stated to be above Android 18 during the tournament, and with Goten being relative to him, it would suggest that he is also. I know some people try to debunk this by bringing up their fight with her as Mighty Mask, but them fighting together in the costume was very clearly throwing them off, and if they were able to fight her individually without it, you'd be seeing a different outcome. Regardless though of the base form statement, in Super Saiyan they would be above her for sure, and that will conclude the first part of the Buu Saga, anime wise at least. For the manga, the list is the same. I'd say though Goku isn't as strong without the Otherworld filler. Now part 2 of the Buu Saga gets a bit tricky. As for the characters we'd have to rank, there's Fat Buu, Evil Buu, Mr. Buu, Gotenks pre-time chamber, Gotenks post-time chamber, Super Buu, Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta. Standing at the top of the list we have Vegeta. Vegeta is strong. Really strong. Like, I don't think people really understand how strong he is. In the super exciting guide, Vegeta is stated to be the power level of Goku multiplied by the power level of Vegeta. In the Daizenshu, his base is stated to be strong in the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which is true by a great amount actually. Arguably, he was already strong in the Wuhan without needing to even turn Super Saiyan, as suggested by Elder Kai. Buu as well notes that Vegeta could have done more damage to him had he been trying harder when deflecting his vanishing ball. Look out for a video in the future about this guy and all his greatness. For number 2, we have Buuhan, which is somehow controversial for some people. I've heard every so often people claim Buu is stronger than Buuhan because of this statement in the manga when Buu says, "I can't get any stronger than this," which is obviously not the case. Sure, at the time Buu was correct, but the minute he opened his mind back up to absorption again, this statement goes out the window. Gohan is obviously stronger than Gotenks, so Buuhan is above Buu. After Buu is Gohan. When Buu diffuses into Buikalo, Goku shows much more confidence in their ability to win now, stating Gohan can handle him. Though he didn't say the same for himself, funny enough. Goku has consciously shown fear towards just plain Super Buu, so him still having Piccolo absorbed I would say puts him above this version of Goku at least. The next will be Super Buu in his standard form. Goku doesn't think he could beat this version of Super Buu at this point and avoids fighting him at pretty much every turn. Only Gohan did Super Buu seem interested in fighting all this time. Remember that Buu has all of his memories of the past and the present. Even though Super Buu was aware of Super Saiyan 3 Goku's existence, it was Gohan who he could sense becoming powerful and was the one who he really had his sights set on. So it seems Buu and Goku both didn't think that he was a threat really. So I'll have Super Buu in this spot. The next one I feel is a bit debatable. We have Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks versus Super Saiyan 3 Goku. It was implied by Goku that if Goten and Trunks became a Super Saiyan as Gotenks, they would surpass him. I don't know how true that is though, to be honest. The way he performed against Buu clearly shows him on another level. It's only a brief encounter, but the difference between Super Buu and Buu is a great one, I'd say. I suppose it's debatable, but I'll be putting Goku over him. At worst, they're equals, and Goku of course is much more experienced and battle worn, so I would think that he'd win the fight. Below Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, I'll be putting Fat Buu. I personally think that this would be an amazing match, and I'd pay money to see it. My main reasoning for this is how well he performed against Super Buu, someone who is way stronger than his counterpart. Piccolo also seemed to believe that Gotenks after training in the time chamber got significantly stronger, so much so that he questioned if now he could stand a chance against Buu. This is convincing enough to me that he would be able to beat him as a fully powered Super Saiyan 3. At least he'd have the power to do it. It's hard to imagine Gotenks beating anyone realistically. Below Fat Buu, I'll be putting Vegeta. Vegeta was actually pretty strong during his fight with Goku, and he seemingly kept that boost that the Majin sign gave him. This makes sense since Babidi's magic essentially brings out your full potential. He stood no chance against Fat Buu, but I think he'll do exceptionally well against the people he's above, one of which being Mr. Buu. Mr. Buu being the version of him that was purified by Mr. Satan and joined the good guys along the way. I also would put Vegeta above the skinny evil Buu. He was clearly much stronger than Mr. Buu, as the narrative suggests at this time the evil within Buu was still much stronger than the good. But as individuals, I don't think either of them are as strong as Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta. Some people think that evil Buu is just as strong as Kid Buu, but that's not true for a few reasons. The first being the fact that this version of Buu still visually appears like the Kaioshin that was inside of him, having the cape and Supreme Kai attire, which we know for a fact is nerfing his power. He also is lacking the more Buu-ish component, which is reflected by his lack of pigmentation. This goop increases the strength of Buu and is the reason why Super Buu is stronger than this version of Buu. Lastly, in this part of the list, we have Piccolo and the Earthlings. I don't think there's much of a debate here really, and the manga supports this list this time around. So as a final verdict, we have Vegito, Buuhan, Buu, Gohan, Super Buu, Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, Fat Buu, Vegeta, Evil Buu, Mr. Buu, Piccolo, and the Earthling. Now we get to the most controversial piece in the Buu Saga in part 3. Starting with number 1 on the anime side, we have Kid Buu arguably. But it's hard to deny this, as the anime goes out of its way every chance it gets to promote Kid Buu as the strongest Buu. From numerous statements by Goku to the other cast of characters, it's evident that somehow this version of Buu soared to the top of the totem pole. Buuhan isn't in part 3, but if he was, in the case of the anime, I would say that he'd be below Kid Buu still. Next on the list, we have Goku. This may confuse some people, as Gohan was just higher on the list than Goku prior. Essentially, when Goku and Vegeta were inside Buu, they fought clones of Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, Piccolo, and Gohan. In this scuffle, Goku is shown easily handling a clone version of Gohan, in just his Super Saiyan state. In the Daizenshu, it's stated that these clones in the Buu Saga have equal fighting power to the original. So somehow, in the aftermath of being fused as Vegito, Goku and Vegeta both received a significant increase in power. More than likely, they got a Zenkai boost. Before fusing, they were both visually injured after fighting Buuhan. Later, when they split apart, they seemed fine and showed no signs of fatigue. Just some headcanon for thought, but either way, Goku would be above Gohan this time around. I would say Gohan can still be ahead of Vegeta though, since we don't see them fighting each other directly, and we don't have much to say against it. As we know, Goku is still stronger than Vegeta, so him beating Gohan doesn't mean Vegeta can. Vegeta will follow up after this though, and you can argue he's stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks given the way he performed. Gotenks isn't in the part 3 list technically, but it's still a notable accomplishment for Vegeta. Next up, we have Mr. Buu. Still having some dog in the fight with the big boys, but not quite on the level of those above him. Following Mr. Buu, we have Kibito Kai. He would scale above Piccolo for sure. Shin's display against Fat Buu and contrary to Piccolo's against Dabura pales in comparison. Now with the addition of his near immeasurable speed, he'd certainly be more than a match for him. Following Kibito Kai, we have Piccolo and then the Earthlings, who I haven't spoken too much about thus far. The humans in Dragon Ball are mostly made up of the original cast and played a pivotal role on their journey to the West. Even throughout Z, you can see them playing crucial roles in the story. Krillin right out the gate helped greatly in the fight against Vegeta, as well as the siege on Namek and the final battle against Frieza. In the Android Saga, Yamcha and Tien also provided support. As funny as it might be, Yamcha was the ideal candidate to fall victim to Dr. Gero and 19's energy absorption technique. He was the first one to pass this information on to the Z Fighters, as well as playing a crucial role in Goku's recovery. Tien played a huge part in buying time for Vegeta and Trunks to get out of the time chamber, so Gohan and Goku could enter, which led to the end of Cell for good. For the most part in the Buu Saga, they don't really do anything. But that's just my opinion on the matter. What do you guys think? Be sure to let me know about your personal list in the comment section down below. And until next time, Majin Birds.